this week's challenge, we were looking at the output of some web scraping of Wikipedia for Strictly Come Dancing. The reason that kind of the input for this challenge is so messy is that we're looking at all the different series of the show. We're looking at all the different weeks of the show. So if you can imagine, I mean, there's roughly 10 or so weeks. It varies across the series, but roughly 10 weeks per series, so about 10 tables for those 21 series. So we're looking at, 200 odd tables that are kind of stacking together, and there are various additional columns that cause us some issues, or not really issues, but it means that they don't necessarily align together all that well. And so the way that I got around that is having these column headers repeating. So if we just take a look at that input and kind of see what I'm talking about, then if I maybe just show as a data grid, for example, then I can see that I've got week 1, immediately the first row, I've got the headers repeating themselves. Maybe if I were to go to something like series, if I go to detail view there, series 8, I think they start introducing some particular theme weeks. So say series 8 in week 3, no, maybe not. Maybe I'm not right, but you can see there we go, series 8, week 5, we've got Halloween week, we've got Blackpool week, there we go, there's one like week 10 movie night, so we get this extra film column popping up in our data set. So we've got a few things to do to make this data set usable, basically. First things first though, let's associate a year with each of our series. So this series started in 2004, and actually there were 2 series in 2004, which is interesting, and then after that it's just 1 series per year, so our calculation needs to reflect that. So if I go to the year calculation here, then we're saying if the series is less than or equal to 2, then it's 2004. Otherwise, it's basically the series number plus 2002. So for example, for series 3, that happened in 2005, the year after 2004, and so that's how that is looking. And if we just kind of go to the detail view of our year field, then we can just manually quickly do a check to see, okay, 2004, and then from 2004 it is just sequential in the number of years. The reason we haven't included 2024 this year is simply because the series hasn't finished yet, and so I didn't want to have an incomplete series in this data set for now. Okay, so next up we're going to focus on that week field. So we kind of saw earlier as we were exploring that we have either, the week numbers as they are, simple, but then some of them we have some kind of special theme weeks. So like around the world, dance fusion. We can see information about whether it's the final, whether it's the quarterfinal. And the thing about the final and quarterfinal, they're often theme weeks as well. So we want to kind of make sure that we're capturing information about both the theme and whether it's the quarterfinal, semi-final, or final. So split it up. Well, first of all, just going to think about splitting off the numeric part. So let's go ahead and do that. So in this field, we are splitting basically on that on the word week, and we're kind of taking the right hand side, so basically just getting rid of the word week there because that's just repeated across, so we don't really need that. And then once we've done that, we can split off the colon from the colon so that we get the numeric part and then kind of the theme, the quarterfinal, and all of that nonsense after that. So we've got that coming through there. There we go. So then once we've done that, we can think about how, hey, we've got some semi-final information and final information coming through here. Some of it is in this other field there. So again, more splitting to do, lots of splitting. This time we're splitting on a space for that field here, so that we just get the numeric part back, and then the final / semi-final parts coming out there as well. Okay, I think it's this one that has the final / semi-final bit in it. There we go. Lovely. And then we can look at this week field, make sure it becomes a numeric field, and that's kind of that finished, which is great. We can remove the punctuation from this one. Actually, which one am I removing the punctuation from? That's a good question. Yes, this one here. So removing the punctuation, so that all looks nice. And then merging this field with our theme, so we have all of that in one field, so it's easier to write that calculation to identify the quarterfinal, semi-final, etc. So a lot of messy kind of cleaning steps at the moment to get this cleaned up, because a lot of information is being stored in one field, but in varying formats across the different series, across the different years. It's always frustrating, isn't it, when you are dealing with data that is kind of updating over time and there's no consistency to how it's being recorded. But that's okay. We'll work with it. So for the quarterfinal, semi-final, etc., then we're going to make a stage field. So that's going to just look at that theme field, and it's going to find the word quarter, then it's the quarterfinal. If it finds the word semi, it's going to be the semi-final. If it finds just the word final, then it's going to be the final. So that's all nice. And then we also just want to update the theme field now so that it gets rid of those words. So let's check what that is. So we're saying that if our theme field contains the word final, then we're going to replace that with a null, otherwise keep the theme. I'm just now questioning that for its validity, because as we were saying earlier about the fact that we might have a movie week or that sort of thing, let's find one of those examples. Oh, it's okay, because we kind of split them off in a different way. I'm not sure now. Oh dear. Oh, I see. Sorry, I missed out a few important steps here. This is why you should kind of maybe write some details in your documentation to remember why you've done things. So we're splitting off on the opening bracket, that theme field, so that if we look, for example, at this movie night where it was a quarterfinal, then we are removing the word the quarterfinal from there. So if I see that down here, I'm removing the information about it being the quarterfinal, just keeping the fact of what the theme was. And then any of the remaining fields, then like just the word final, then that's when we're saying, okay, let's just replace that with null. We've got that final information in a separate field. There we go. Phew, good to remember what I've done. And then we can think about looking at this theme field that we've got here and taking away, say, the quotation marks there, cleaning it up in some way. So let's check if there's any other things that are done. So we're removing the punctuation. We're replacing the word night with nothing. So if we just look there, back before we do that, we've got something like Broadway night. Do we need it to say Broadway night or Halloween night? No, not necessarily. So let's go and make sure that that gets replaced with nothing. So it kind of groups those values together. Cool. And then just making sure that the nulls or empties are all grouped together as nulls, basically. Lovely. So now we're finally coming to deal with those headers that are kind of in the data set that we don't want to be in there. I did a little test up here, so I was like, okay, if I just literally go to the couple field and keep only the couple, then is this going to have all the headers? And if I kind of look through the data set, I can see for the kind of couple, the music, the dance, the scores, they are all just basically some variation of the same header. The reason I went with the couple field rather than the scores or the dance or the music or the result is just simply because you can see here that where the web scraping's happened, we've kind of kept those numeric kind of like, these would be like hyperlinks, wouldn't they, in the Wikipedia page. So using the couple field is easier, so we use that down here. So just testing that output, how it's going to look before actually applying it. For the couple field itself, there was this random value here where we've got a number 1 at the end. So I just went ahead and removed the numbers from this. So clean and remove numbers. Then we're looking at this scores field. So we're splitting this up based on the space and then kind of removing those brackets. So let's take a look at that here. So the reason that we don't kind of split out each individual judge's scores is just because there's so much variation in the number of judges. So sometimes they have a guest judge in, so there's 5 judges. Sometimes somebody would be sick and maybe they'd only have 3. So yeah, that's why we're kind of just keeping them all together. We can have that breakdown in our data set if we want, but we're more concerned with the total score. So we are splitting that up into these two fields. Just give Prep a moment to catch up there. So we've got the total score and then those judges' scores. Make that total score be numeric, and then replacing that closing bracket with nothing, so we just have the breakdown of those judges' scores. Lovely, and then making it a null rather than an empty, basically. I don't really know my logic for doing that, but let's go with it anyway. Okay, so you might have noticed as we were going through that, the total scores could be as low down as, say, 1 or 2. And how can there be a score of 1 or 2 when there are 4 judges? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So that happens when there's some kind of group dance where they do like a swing marathon or a quick step-a-thon, waltz-a-thon, that sort of thing. So basically for these, we don't actually care about these individual scores. We're just interested in the music choice, and we can see how that gets repeated across every couple. We don't want it to be counted multiple times, so we're just going to change the couple name to be group, and then aggregate this down to just a single row. So our calculation for doing that is to say, with our couple, say if the dance contains the word group or the dance contains the word marathon, then we replace our couple name with group. Otherwise, we just keep the couple name. And then for the update the score field as well, so then if our couple is group, then we'll null out the total score as well. And that way we can just group by all of our different fields that we want to keep in our data set here. And that means that we lose those additional rows where it's every single couple who competed in that group dance. Okay, and then looking at our music field, that's kind of the most important one that we were trying to look at. We can see that we have, say, the music name. I'm just trying to look at what it looked like before. So we have our song and our artist. So if I check here, this one's just got the song in it, but hopefully most of them are going to have the song and the artist kind of separated by this hyphen. I don't think it's exactly a hyphen. I chose to copy that out. So where I found it in here, for example, I'd just go and find that hyphen that's slightly larger than a hyphen and copy that into my replace statements. But there are some times where we have multiple songs in the same music field. So I'm trying to think of where one happens. I'm not sure off the top of my head that I'd be able to find that. Maybe, I think for, say, La La Land, when someone danced to that, they danced to more of a medley rather than just one single song. So if we look at the music there, that is only just coming through as a one song. Darn. I'll just check and see if there is. No. Not sure. Anyway, some of them do have that, so that's why we have this calculation here, where we're saying if we get a comma and then a quotation mark to indicate that there are 2 songs next to each other, then replace that with a pipe. If we get this and, so it's saying that there are multiple people, multiple songs, so it can be separated by a comma, it can be separated by an and symbol, and it could be an and space. So we're using this replace logic so that we can then split them up evenly, so that gets us to this stage where we've got kind of, this would be an easier way to show you, wouldn't it? So this one, for example, here we had 4 different songs in the same dance, and they're all now split into separate fields, which is good because then we can pivot them down into a single field so that we can count all of these occurrences of that song. Great, we have some filtering out to do. We've got a lot of empty rows there where couples just danced to a single song, but then we can split up our song from our artist, as you can see here. Lovely. And then I think that's all that we're doing also a replace here of those quotation marks. So we just take the quotation marks out from around the song. We don't want to remove all the punctuation because some songs do have, punctuation in them. For example, these ones at the top here. So we just get rid of those double quotation marks. And then finally, the last thing we're doing to clean this up, make it all nice and ready to use, is that we're taking all these special fields at the end here. So whether it was movie week or Broadway or musicals or countries or celebrating the BBC, then we want to just merge these all together because they won't overlap in any way. So we just merge those fields together and just get a separate field for our theme detail. So now we can see that this couple, it was movie week, they danced to a song from Reservoir Dogs. Cool. So hopefully that was an interesting look at some realistic data, and thanks very much for watching.